If you clicked on today's video, there's a good chance that you suck. And hey, that's okay. That's not me insulting anybody. I've had plenty of people reach out to me in the DMs saying flat out, hey, I suck. What should I use in PvP? Today, I've got you covered because I'm going to give you rock solid PvP builds on each class that have the potential to work in your favor, even if you feel like you're not a strong player. But before we get into that, oh my, would you look at the time? Fellas, do you want to play a fun game that features intense PvE and PvP with badass characters on both your mobile phone or PC? Oh, and did I mention it's all completely free? Well, it sounds to me like you need a healthy dosage of Raid Shadow Legends. Why don't we take a moment to talk about my favorite chunk of challenging content, the Doom Tower. It's a giant prison where some big baddies have been locked away for kind of a long time, but not long enough apparently, because the tower is failing and we gotta go up there to clap cheeks. To climb to the top, you're gonna need a squad of champions. The regular Doom Tower floors should be easy enough, but the bosses are tough and you're gonna need to get a little strategic to take them down. You're probably gonna want ways to remove debuffs, and you'll want pretty high resistance too. Many Doom Tower bosses ignore block debuffs and can do terrible things to your team, draining their turn meters, stripping their buffs, you know, real messed up stuff. I mean, I could go on forever telling you what you would need to fight and conquer ye old Doom Tower, but where would the fun in that be? The real challenge is figuring it out and crushing it yourself. There's a ton happening in Raid this month. They've got special events every day, including an entirely new event for the summer solstice. It's called the Path of Light, and you'll be able to explore 3 new branching paths to get the rewards you want the most. On top of that, there's great new champions coming out and a set of skins for the amazing Trunda Guilt Mallet. But wait, there's more. Raid's currently doing a special Deliana Chase event where new and existing players can get their hands on the amazing Deliana, a brand new legendary champion from the High Elves faction. All you gotta do is log in and play Raid for 7 days between now and July 20th, and you'll get Deliana, one of the best support champions in the game, for free. Hey, new players, listen up. When you're in-game, enter promo code MyDeliana to get 50 XP brews to max your legendary hero Deliana to level 50, as well as a ton of silver. Promo code available till July 20th. And there's more. Hit the link in the video description and get a free champion Tayrel, 200k silver, 1 XP boost, 1 energy refill, and 1 ancient shard. You'll find these rewards here in your inbox for the next 30 days only. When you're in, you can find me in-game under the name Fall Uwoot, and if you're fast, you can join my clan. Don't wait, click the link in the video description and I'll see you in-game. Alright, back to the content. The builds I'm about to show you are designed to have one easily executable tactic that will help your team considerably with little to no effort on your part. I'm going to give you 2 builds for each class, and then we'll wrap up with what weapons I feel like you can also bring into PvP, which can help your team a lot with little effort. I should clarify that the majority of these builds are going to focus on the 3v3 meta and trials, but they'll also work in 6v6 game types, including Iron Banner. Why don't we start off with Hunter, because stat-wise, probably the majority of you goons out there watching are a bunch of cape-wearing, high-jumping, roly-poly mother. Good news for you though, Hunter has easy methods of team support that will make your teammates very thankful, even if you're all alone in an empty Discord chat and can't hear their praise. Build 1, F your radar. PvP players, even at the high level, depend on their radar a lot in-game. It usually directly guides what a player will do next. Hold their ground, push, retreat, rotate, yada yada yada. With that in mind, the Gemini gestures are arguably the easiest exotic to milk in PvP with the least amount of effort required. Step 1, get remotely near the enemy team. Step 2, Hunter dodge. Step 3, profit. I think a lot of PvP rookies would be surprised, even if you stayed kinda vaguely near the enemy team and never engaged them directly in a gunfight, and only repeatedly dodged to bring their radar offline, just how effective of a tactic that would be. In freelance trials especially, where the enemy team is very likely not talking to each other, completely brutal. By the way, while all the footage I'm showing you right now is probably from a Gemini build where I'm playing Void, you don't need to restrict yourself to playing Void with Gemini. My good friend Drewski plays 3v3 scrims with Gemini and Top Tree Arc, which he genuinely feels is one of the strongest 3v3 builds in the game. I happen to prefer Void for camo shenanigans, which are also fun, but you do you. With Trapper's Ambush, you can make your teammates camo in between effing around with the other team's radar, something that, again, takes very little effort in 3v3. We'll get into weapon talk later, but high-impact long-range pulse rifles can easily dunk on a player who doesn't know they're about to get angled because you took their radar away. If you want to use a strong Gemini build, there's really just 2 things you need. Thing number 1, tier 10 mobility. Shouldn't be that difficult if you're a hunter. More mobility equals a shorter dodge cooldown, so you need that. If you're a newish player and your armor rolls are really bad, hopefully you can put on the tried and true combo of Powerful Friends and Radiant Light. Doing that gives you an extra 20 mobility and strength. Easy way to get high mobility no matter what. Thing number 2 is Utility Kickstart. For some ungodly and unknown reason, this armor mod has never been nerfed by Bungie and still only costs 1 energy to equip. If there's any PvP build that requires my ability to be used a lot, it's double utility kickstart all day, and yes, it does stack with diminishing returns. If you're going Void and Gemini, Vanishing Step seems like the natural play, just to F with the enemy team a little bit harder. However, if you want to be a real asshole in PvP, and you probably do if you're maining a hunter, am I right? Don't overlook the absolutely barbaric combo of Gemini Jester and Classy Restoration. Only doable if you're playing Solar, but strong AF. Dodging now both strips the enemy team of their radar and makes you more annoying to kill. If you are gonna go Solar, I'm gonna hard recommend Ember of Benevolence and a Healing Grenade. If you haven't noticed, healing nades are already really strong in PvP, and in addition to healing up any of your teammates on demand, you'll get better ability regen, aka faster dodge cooldown for more radar tampering. Might be kind of a big duh tip, but if you're a brand new player, try to use your Gemini while not in direct line of sight of the other team. Do it from behind walls, around corners, etc. Okay, Hunter build number 2, F your damage. The goal of Hunter build number 2 is to repeatedly give your teammates baller damage reduction via the Omni Oculus exotic. If you're out of the loop, get ready to have your mind blown just a wee bit. The DR provided by Omni Oculus is stupid good. When activated by giving your teammates camo, if they happen to be at 9 Resil or higher, they now have the ability to tank a chaperone headshot. TLDR, make your teammates extra beefy repeatedly, and they will be much more likely to win their gunfights. And remember, now that extra Resil means more inherent anti-flinch, a lot of players have been speccing into that hard lately. Even if you do go into trials alone, there's a good chance that your teammates are going to have high-ish Resil, and hey, even if they don't, any extra DR you can give them for free is great. Even better news, activating camo on your teammates with Omni is dummy easy to pull off. If you haven't ever used Omni in PvP, you'll be surprised at just how far away you can be from your teammates while still being able to hit them with camo. Trapper's Ambush is naturally going to be key in the build, and likewise for Echo of Persistence, which will let you extend the duration of your Predator cosplay. If you're able to Omni activate into 2 teammates at the same time, you will fully refund your melee ability energy, allowing you to potentially do this a lot. However, there definitely will be times where your team is going to split up, so even with the clutch regen factor, I'm still going to recommend running high strength if you can, followed by running a lot of Resil. Like before, Powerful Friends and Radiant Light should be on your hunter at all times in PvP, regardless of build, but definitely worth a reminder for this build, especially if you're new. Remember that melee kickstart, while tempting, probably won't apply to this build. Melee kickstart only kicks in if both charges are expended, not just one. And because you're wearing Omni, you will have 2 charges, so you'll probably not get a ton of use out of melee kickstart. As a general tip for this build, try to shadow at least 1 player at all times, meaning follow them around a lot. And when you see red on the radar, camo dive the both of you and continue to shadow, staying back and helping your teammate with support gunfire. When the camo wears off, just reapply as needed, and if there's ever a situation where all 3 of you are tightly bunched, that's a free activation. Literally always activate in that scenario if you have melee energy. Moving on to Warlock builds. They may not be as easily abusable as the Hunter, but the effects can be pretty damn devastating when done correctly. Starting off with build number 1, Maximum Skill Turret Abuse. The goal here is to jank your discipline through the roof and repeatedly annoy the other team to hell via the use of the Bleak Watcher turret on Shadebinder. By opening most of your team engagements with the turret, you have slightly better odds at helping your teammates lock down kills via chip damage and slowing the enemy team for free. Keep in mind, even though the Shadebinder turret is easily breakable by being shot, even one well-timed turret burst can completely F up the other team's day. Damage aside, being attacked with slow in PvP can hurt a lot, and if the enemy is in a position where they can't get to cover quickly after being slowed, they can easily get torn down by your teammates before you even pull the trigger. There are 2 exotics you can think about if you want to rock the turret abuse build. One is Eye of Another World, and the other is the Osmiomancy. Osmiomancy is probably the play if you have the armor available and it has a good roll. 2 grenade charges means more turret abuse abuse overall, and again, that is kind of our goal. If you don't have Osmio for whatever reason, Eye of Another World is a good backup option. There's rumors out there about how the Eye of Another World doesn't push your grenade cooldown beyond tier 10. It's complete bull and entirely untrue, it does. So with Eye of Another World, you may not have the ability to throw 2 turrets at once, but you'll have the faster single turret cooldown, and you'll be able to take advantage of grenade kickstart as well. I'd recommend throwing on Whisper of Shards if you can, just in case your teammate is also running stasis. That way, anytime you shoot and break a crystal, boom, more nade energy. Bonus points if you have a headstone weapon that you feel really comfortable with, but if you struggle to land shots with said weapon, don't use it. Landing shots is literally always the priority. You can't take advantage of headstone if you don't shoot people in the head after all. Whisper of Torment should also be something to put on. The amount of grenade energy you get back when taking damage is kind of tiny, but every little bit does help. Whisper of Durance is also a good idea to make your turret more annoying by making enemies slower for longer. When rocking the turret abuse build, you want to make sure you're prioritizing 2 things on your armor. Thing number 1 is max discipline, tier 10 without question. Thing number 2 is to try and rock solar class armor in order to take advantage of 2 bomber mods. Every time you want to speed up your grenade regeneration, just drop a healing rift. Bomber ensures that by doing that, you get back a chunk of nade energy right away. Even if you got full health but you need grenade energy, IMO, just drop your rift. Again, grenade kickstart only if you're using Eye of Another World over Osmio, and fastball should be mandatory either way. New player tip: you don't need line of sight on an enemy to throw a well-placed turret. Leak Watcher turrets have the ability to bounce off walls when thrown. Take advantage of that when trying to throw one into a clump of dudes. The ultimate goal really should be trying to get your turret behind the enemy team. It's always much harder for an enemy team to deal with a turret that's behind them than one already in their line of sight. Okay, Warlock build number 2, send in the child. The point of this build is to send in the highly annoying Child of the Old Gods whenever possible to make it easier for your fire team to mop up the engagement. Child of the Old Gods is relentlessly annoying in 3v3, especially in trials. The tracking is pretty good, and when deployed, your team has a really great window to capitalize on the other team, which is currently being weighed down by Tether Jr. The only real downside of the Child build is that unlike the Shadebinder turret build, you 100% need line of sight in order to take advantage of the Child. That sounded wrong. With that in mind, I'd recommend only rocking this build if you're somewhat confident in laning, i.e. just kind of staying back at medium to long range and dishing out damage safely from afar. And if I've just described your bread and butter, you're in luck, buddy boy. Dealing big chunk damage is kind of the way right here, and when the Child goes in for damage, I usually, if I can, love to follow up with an overcharged Axion Bolt Grenade paired with Chaos Accelerant. It won't guarantee a kill, but if the enemy is already weak and focusing on shooting the Child, you've got a good shot at the follow-up Axion killing the slowed and hurt Guardian, who has likely now retreated behind cover. Key elements in this PvP build are both Child of the Old God and Chaos Accelerant, as well as Echo of Remnants to make sure the Axion tracking is even more annoying. I should mention, depending on how good you are at placing grenades, the Spike Nade option pairs great with your Void Child too. You gotta make sure that your recovery and your discipline are higher than me on a Friday night, ideally topping both out at 10. On top of that, you can take your pick between the Bomber Armor mod and Utility Kickstart. Utility Kickstart is going to ensure more child abuse. Jesus Christ, I gotta proofread these scripts. Utility Kickstart is gonna ensure that you'll be able to deploy your Child more. There we go. And Bomber is gonna ensure that you'll be able to chuck out more grenades. Naturally, Eye of Another World is gonna be huge on this build, pushing both your Rift regen and your grenade regen beyond tier 10 at the same time. Pair that together with Grenade Kickstart and Fastball, and you are in business. New player tip: when using the Child build, try to find nearby cover and hug that harder than your mother, who you probably don't visit as much as you should. Peak shooting with big burst damage pulse rifles are an easy way to deploy the Child, and popping back into cover can help you stay alive. Also, remember that you don't need to stay in your Rift to deploy the Child, only to make it appear. And finally, we move on to Titan builds. Both my Titan builds share similar goals, the real unique factor being the exotic that you decide to pair with your loadout. Build number 1, Overshield Abuse featuring special guest Titan Rampart. The goal of the build is to stay barricade near your teammates, ideally both, but one would be fine, and drop a barricade right before or during an engagement to provide the both of you with overshield protection. Titan overshields are very annoying to deal with in PvP, especially when paired together with the Titan exotic, which you can shoot through. Depending on how confident you are in your ability to lay down teamfire, you can either drop a barricade that you primarily can take advantage of, or drop a barricade to protect a teammate who is already hardscoping. For our build, we're going to want both offensive bulwark and bastion. Bastion is the real key because it'll give both you and your teammates an overshield, which we want, while bulwark is really just kind of icing on the cake. Echo of Persistence is going to be mandatory too, improving the overall duration of your overshield, and while it's not vital to the build, Ward of Dawn is currently a stupidly good super in Trials and 3v3, boasting a dumb cooldown period that'll probably get looked at in the future. With your Titan build, you're going to want to take advantage of our old friend Utility Kickstart ×2 without question. That should be sitting proudly atop a tier 10 Resil stat, by the way, ensuring you have annoyingly effective barricade cooldown time all the time. New player tip for Titan build number 1. Your goal should be to drop literally as many barricades as you can all the time. I know a lot of Titan players like to save their barricade for when a teammate dies in order to initiate a revive, but that is not what this build is about. You want to shadow a teammate, ideally both if you can, and when you see red on the radar, you immediately drop that barricade for both team shooting and a free overshield. If you can, try to drop your Titan barricade from barely being around a corner, especially if your teammates are already in a gunfight and you're trying to help out. Dropping the barricade on the corner ensures a more safe barricade drop, and even though you won't be giving your teammate the full barricade, just enough will stick out from the corner to offer free protection while shooting. Titan build number 2 is a variant of build 1, Overshield Abuse, featuring special guest Precious Scars. The main idea of the build is near identical to build 1. Your goal should be to tail your crew around the map, dropping barricades where possible to provide free overshield. The only difference is you can be a little more liberal with your barricade dropping. Even if the barricade is 100% behind a wall and physically won't help anyone, doesn't matter, drop it. You want your teammates to get and take advantage of that free overshield at literally every opportunity. Again, Utility Kickstart ×2 and Tier 10 Resil are mandatory for this build, likewise for Bastion, Bulwark, and the Echo of Persistence. Precious Scars offers a unique opportunity in Trials if you consider yourself a not great player. The ability to really help your team out by playing no differently than you normally would is kind of a good thing. When you revive a teammate or are revived by a teammate, Operation Overshield really cranks up to a whole new level thanks to the Scars helmet. You'd really be surprised at how quickly the tide can turn after just a regular revive with that helmet. And don't get me wrong, there definitely are stronger Titan exotics out there for PvP, but remember, we're looking right now for ways to help out the team with minimal effort, and Scars will get the job done big time. New player tip for build 2. There's not much I can give here other than literally don't care where exactly your barricade is being dropped. As long as you're giving your teammate a free overshield, you're doing your job. When revived and your Scar helmet activates, it's a moving zone that centers around you, so be sure to hug your teammates tight when it pops, especially if they are now charging into battle. Okay, now let's quickly talk about weapons. What I'm gonna share with you aren't necessarily the quote best weapons in the game at high level PvP, aka those with high ceiling potential. What I will share with you though are weapons that I feel have a high floor, meaning even with minimal practice they can be picked up and used to great effect in 3v3. Weapon number 1 is No Time to Explain. While I've been kind of vocal lately on Twitter about how I hardcore believe the messenger truly has a higher ceiling, I understand that not everyone has a messenger. If you'll recall, today's video is targeted directly at people who probably don't have a messenger at all, and with that being the case, you can lean on No Time to Explain. Burst damage is top tier in PvP, and all high impact pulse rifles dish that out very easily. While I prefer the messenger, an advantage of No Time is that the unique bullet buddy can activate even if you haven't gotten a kill. All you gotta do is land enough headshots and bam, bullet buddy. And even if you don't get any kills, landing even one burst with No Time is enough to strip half an enemy's health bar, making them easy picking for a teammate to finish off. Remember that pulse rifle targeting right now is 1 energy on your artifact. Definitely take advantage of that with No Time and double down with 2 if you can. Weapon number 2 is Fighting Lion, and I am 100% dead butt. If you're the type of player who's trying to improve but your current plan of attack is stay back and support my teammates while playing it safe, The Lion could be your jam. While other grenade launchers are deadlier, the appeal of fighting Lion is that you have unlimited ammo because the damn thing is a primary. You might not be the deadliest dude on the team, but being able to bank unlimited grenades around corners into wherever the enemy team is holding up, it's literally free damage, and every time you injure an enemy, that's another opportunity for a teammate to finish off a now weak Guardian. Weapon number 3 is Ace of Spades or Crimson, depending on if you play M&K or Controller. I should clarify, you can 100% be deadly with either weapon no matter what input method you play. I genuinely find though, personally, that Ace feels more comfortable to me on M&K and Crimson feels more comfortable to me on Controller. Use these if you feel more confident at mid-range play. Crimson might be the, quote, easier hand cannon to use, but as always, it depends on the player. Hand cannons are always going to be good in D2, and these two are IMO, top shelf, and very not difficult to pick up if you're new. Weapon number 4 is Peace of Mind. While No Time and Messenger do hit really hard, they might not be your cup of tea. Peace of Mind is more of a spray the other guy down with a hail of gunfire move, and it's a fantastic 1v1 dueling weapon with little downside. I kinda prefer any role with perpetual motion, literally free stability, which means free unflinching. Weapon 5 is our old friend, Le Monarque. Sometimes I talk to PvP mains about the sandbox, and every time I've ever asked them, what weapon do you hate fighting the most? 9 times out of 10, the answer is Monarque. It's the same for me, and not really difficult to see why. One arrow is enough to demolish your health bar, and on top of that, there's chip damage to repeatedly delay your regen. If you're helping your teammates in a gunfight, one well-placed arrow on a mildly injured enemy will result in instant death. And again, even if you're not getting any kills at all, every arrow you land is a huge inconvenience to the other team. If you tinker with Monarque and find that you really like it, you could always go with the Oathkeeper exotic on the Hunter. Maybe the most annoying burst damage build in the game. Annoying for the other team, that is. Weapon number 6 is Witherhoard. Witherhoard is a gun that won't always perform, but as a budding PvP player, you can easily use it in situations to really help your team gain the advantage in 3v3. In trials, if the other team is 1 player down, Witherhoard is some of the easiest revive prevention in the game. Enemy players who are hiding behind cover, peek shooting in doorways, or attempting to get a free revive are all vulnerable to Witherhoard. Like the Shadebinder turret, remember that Witherhoard can bounce off walls, meaning that you don't need direct line of sight to threaten or pressure another team with Witherhoard. Do me a favor, would you? If there's another weapon that you feel has a really high floor, aka can do well for even newer players, drop that recommendation down in the comment section. While you're down there, feel free to share any builds of your own that you think might benefit newer players or players who maybe have never been flawless before. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more content. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.